Hi, everyone. Thank you guys for hanging out and enjoying seeing our wonderful sponsors logos. Remember that just like our sponsors, you too can support Words and Music 2020 by donating to the festival in any way of the forms that you see listed in the comments. My name is Megan Holt. I am your festival director, bringing you 4 days of New Orleans music, culture, literature, photography, and more. We're really excited to be here with a back-to-back Pelican Publishing whammy. First, we had A Long Way from the Strawberry Patch last panel, and now we have When Not Performing, New Orleans Musicians by David Spielman. So a little bit of backstory about this book. David decided he wanted to photograph musicians, but not really in their traditional way. So he decided to ask some musicians, where would you be photographed if you weren't performing? And that became the genesis of this really beautiful black and white photograph book. I have it. I highly recommend all of you get it at the bookstore, our festival virtual bookstore, powered by Tubby and Coos Mid-City Bookshop. And without further ado, I will say one more thing, which is if you have questions or comments, feel free to put those questions or comments into the chat for Q&A, and we will get to our discussion. I'm going to welcome photographer David Spielman, who is the photographer, the mastermind behind When Not Performing. And he's going to introduce these lovely people we have with us today who were photographed for the book. Take it away, David.
Good afternoon. I have to apologize for the technical difficulties. All of a sudden, my internet dropped off and did a little fireman drill, and Megan helped me walk through it. So I appreciate it. I apologize because I've been waiting all day for this. I've been very excited. I want to tell you a little bit about the book. She touched on it, but when I first moved to New Orleans in the early 70s, the famous photographer Michael Smith, was documenting everything musically. And I, like every young photographer, I wanted to be the next musician's photographer. But he was so ingrained, so well-versed, so knowledgeable, and such a damn good photographer that I realized that I didn't want to get into a battle with this guy's talent because I was in such great admiration for it. So long story short, I abdicated to his talent and things. And so then a couple of years after he passed, I decided, okay, I can't replicate his work because he literally started at the very first Jazz Fest and so on and so forth. So I wanted to do When Not Performing. These musicians are our neighbors. They are our friends. We grew up with them. They've played at our Sweet 16 parties. They play at the bar mitzvahs. They play at funerals, at wakes, and so on and so forth. And so I wanted to show something a little bit more personal about them. I want us, the viewer, the listeners of their music, to understand that they're not rock stars in the sense of a Mick Jagger or Paul McCartney or somebody like that. These ladies and gentlemen work sometimes 2 and 3 different gigs a night. It's not easy. It's hard. And as I said in a press release, that they are the marrow of the bones of New Orleans. And so, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panel. We've got 4 outstanding musicians. Don Vappie, who I've known for a very long time, graciously has agreed to be on the list with us. John Rankin, another outstanding musician, happens to be left-handed, which I like a lot. John Boutte, who we all know and love. And last but not least, Hellen Gillet. And so if we can put them up on the screen, let's have everybody up. Hello. And I'm sure glad you guys are here. I want to start off with a quick story, and of course about Don Vappie. when I was getting married a few years ago, back in 2007 after Katrina, our little boy Sasha, we adopted him from Russia. We were at the reception, and Don I coerced coerced him into playing at this wedding reception, and he very graciously did. And through the evening, he would see Sasha and his little friend out there messing around. And so he says to Sasha, he says, Sasha, this is your special night. What song can I play for you? This is a 5-year-old kid. He's stymied, this guy, this big guy up on a stage, just asking him big questions and all of this. So he's pondering and he panics and he says, "Oh, McDonald." And so all of a sudden, Don breaks into a jazz rendition of Old MacDonald Had a Farm. And I've got a picture of Sasha dancing his brains out to this thing. So that's the kind of talent that we're dealing with. Hellen and John and John Boutte are just those kind of entertainers. So I'd like to welcome you all. Today, let's talk a little bit about this thing that we've been living through 24/7 for the last 8 months, the pandemic. I'll start with you, Hellen. What was the first realization that this thing was a whole lot bigger and much more dangerous than we all kind of took? Because, you know, as we all have grown up here, hurricanes, oil spills, we kind of roll with the punches, but this thing has developed a whole nother persona. So Hellen, tell us a little bit about what you've experienced.
Well, hi everybody. Welcome to the Words and Music Festival. Just so you know, my last name is Gillet because I'm a Belgian American and it's pronounced like the French. So just for clarification purposes, Hellen Gillet. Trying to honor my father, who is still with us. Anyway, I was on tour when I realized things were sort of picking up. I was on the West Coast. And I was doing a Northwestern tour. And my last gig, as is true for many musicians in the United States, was Friday the 13th, which is so appropriate for this year. But I was in Astoria, Oregon, near Washington. And so I actually was on the Northwest, basically on the COVID-19 Comes to America tour. So, you know, Berkeley and Portland, Oregon were hotspots. Seattle, I played in all of those places right as the news was breaking that this thing was arriving. And so I was just, you know, I felt like I was sort of chasing or driving away from this thing. Anyway, it was a very strange time. And then every venue I was at, I would check in and say, "Are we still on? What's going on?" And like, "Yeah, we're still on for now." And then sure enough, my tour imploded about 5 dates before it was supposed to finish. And I came home after that Friday, the 13th. I took a plane home with some lovely hosts of a show, of a concert, who gave me like a to-go bag of sanitary wipes and a face mask. And I got on the plane and came home. And my husband and I quarantined together for 2 weeks, as was recommended, because he was on tour as well. We both got home and quarantined for 2 weeks, and that's, you know, kind of were, so yeah, it was quite a weird time, and a time where you sort of, the beginning, it felt like, we're going to take this thing, you know, seriously, and we're going to get through it, and let's learn how to garden and grow our own vegetables, and let me start live streaming right away. You know, I had that musician who works a lot, survival instinct to just go right into live streaming. I thought, let me do a Monday night. I used to do Monday at Bacchanal. For 7 years, I did a Monday night. People kind of know me for Mondays. So I thought, oh, this is a good time for me to do it. And, you know, a lot of my fans, you know, they can deal with choosing me over football, or they can catch up later. And plus football wasn't happening. So anyway, but so that was sort of this like initial energy of survival kicked in. And then things started changing into the summer. The vibe changed.
Well, accept my apology on butchering your last name, but you got to realize originally I'm from Oklahoma. So English, Spanish, French, Dutch, whatever it might be. John Rankin, tell me a little bit about the realization and the situation you found yourself in when the pandemic started to take hold.
Well, I was in town, so I didn't have to deal with traveling like Hellen, which I was grateful for. And I, quickly canceled my jobs, canceled my students because I had a fair number of students at my house. And I switched to online lessons, which I abhor and try and avoid. They're very different. And I started a show like Hellen on Facebook on, I was doing Tuesdays and Thursdays for a half hour, which can't compete with Don Vappie because he's the marathoner of Facebook. But it's enough for me. And it was interesting because I had a lot of very consistent fans, and those that are on Facebook found me, and I have a bunch of out-of-town friends, from various places, and they started connecting. So over time, I've built up my own little group of friends, people that I've known before. Some of them I knew well, some of them I really didn't know. So that's been good. Although, like teaching online, playing online is very different. It's like playing into the void. So after that, what I thought, well, I love to practice. So I started practicing my classical repertoire and brought back about 6 or 7 pieces. And then after that, I started arranging standards, which I do anyway and love. And after that, I started writing pieces for the guitar, instrumentals. So I got to 14 instrumentals and 20 standards that I hadn't played before. And I went in the studio and recorded them and then just ignored them. That was kind of it. Then I went and cleaned out the garage and the tool shed and, all that stuff. Still dealing with that. I still have years worth of tasks at that point, but at that speed. But, I think we're learning to cope with it and trying to be patient,
Right. All right, Don, give us your realization of what and when it was all taking place.
Okay. Oh, well, just now I was scrambling to plug in my adapter because my computer was dying. But my last gig was actually March 14th. That was a Saturday. And it was more of a favor gig than a real gig, but it's still. I think I sat around for about a week, maybe 2 weeks, because 14th, and it was about the 21st or 22nd. And I was never one to do, I thought about doing Facebook Live. I just hadn't done it. And I thought, I will not become irrelevant. So I turned on, I put the phone down and clicked it on and said, hey, I don't know if y'all can see me. It's my first time doing this, but I'm going to play some music for you. Hope you like it. And as time went on, I did it every day. And in fact, I did it twice a day. At 8 in the morning, I have coffee on the porch with Don Vappie. So I figure I got to drink my coffee. I can do it with all these people if they want to join me.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that I actually have a fan in New Zealand who I met on Facebook, who is up in the middle of the night to let her dog out. So it's like 1 o'clock in the morning when it's 8 o'clock here, the next day in New Zealand. But we do that. And I've been doing that every day for 247 days today, I think. I took a break from the afternoon thing last week, so I went to 235 consecutive days, and I did one yesterday. And today I'm here, so I can't do that. And I see one of my fans, Jami, is listening. She's there. She says, "You're a great guitar player, John." And that's when I started, man. And since then, I put up the tip jar thing, but I understand that people aren't working, and I always try to make it clear, look, if you can't afford it, don't worry about it. I understand. I'm going to play anyway. So, I mean, people have been pretty gracious, and I do some online lessons and,
Well, that's great. I think the underlying thing is that musicians deal with such a tough, uncertain existence that, failure really isn't an option. Danny Barker used to tell me that when times were slow and he didn't have a lot of stuff going on, he'd go down to Bourbon Street and he'd get down there and put his banjo case out there and play and pick up a few bucks here and there. Well, before we go on, I've got the little video that was done about the book. So if Megan or Candace can fire that up, I'd appreciate it.
I'm David Spielman. I've always wanted to do a photographic book about New Orleans musicians. How to start? Where to begin? The subject and subjects are overwhelming and daunting. I certainly didn't want to do more pictures of them on stage performing. There's more to them than just that. Their lives, their wives, their husbands, and next of kin. Where was I to begin? Did it start at the knee of an aunt or an uncle? A friend in the neighborhood? Maybe at school or church? Who mentored them? Who inspired them? The musician's life usually begins when the sun goes down and everyone else's day is almost done. When Not Performing is 71 black and white portraits of New Orleans musicians when not on stage. With Fred Lyon, who wrote the text, we set out to find it out. Wanting more than just the trad, jazz, brass bands and rock and rollers, I was looking to photograph them in their spaces, where they play, stay, and may have found their musical voice. Their talents provide us with one of our greatest attractions. They are the keepers and innovators of our musical heritage. They choose the spot where they wanted to be shot, so it began. Finding, contacting, and convincing them was a challenge and a scavenger's hunt of sorts. I wanted to get a peek into their lives and world. Shooting quickly and quietly without much gear, no overproduction, just them, me, trying to see them for who they are, not the performer on stage. With talent like Irma Thomas, Dr. John, Fats Domino, Ellis Marsalis, Art Neville, Coco Robichaux, Pete Fountain, Terrence Blanchard, and many more. When Not Performing is a window into the musical community of New Orleans. The roots of the music run deep in our soil and souls. New Orleans may be the musical heart of America. When Not Performing is a book for those who love New Orleans music and her musicians.
All right. As I've said about, I did a book one time on Southern Riders, but the musicians, they're magical. You guys, all musicians are magical. And people always say, well, what instrument do you play? And I said, no, I play the radio. One time I had a veiled attempt to learn how to play the tenor banjo. And I asked Don to teach me. And Don very quietly one day said, you know, David, you're living proof that white guys don't have much rhythm. So I've got it in a case. It's a lovely piece of furniture. But I am what you all need most, and that is a listener. But as a listener, I'm enthralled with how you do this. And as I said in the film, I asked everybody where they wanted to be photographed. And Hellen had just moved into the musicians' village. And, you know, it was, on first thought, that's not much. But then, you know, wait a minute, you think about it, totally displaced, has to find somewhere else to go. Not only is the city disrupted, but your whole personal component of your life and everything. John, I went to his house very graciously let me come to his house, and he's kind of standing in the doorway, holding a guitar. And of course, if anybody's ever seen John, he's a striking, tall kind of fellow, and it's very very present in the photograph, his size and his guitar. And I just love being in people's homes, because we normally see what's on the CD cover, or we see them on stage. And this just lets people understand that they are one of us, and they're probably the best part of us. So let's kind of move on. Where do you think this pandemic is going to take the musical community of New Orleans? John, let's start with you, if you would.
Not really sure. I know one thing, that everyone has learned, well, maybe not everyone, but those who will survive have figured out a way to keep in touch through social media. I think we're going to be better after this, because, I mean, for me, I'd never done this. So basically, I'd never really been in touch with a fan base. I've always just survived as a native New Orleans person who kind of knew how the music connected socially and the functions in New Orleans society. So I'd work just because I was here, because I was part of that. And I was fortunate to do things out of town with different people. This is interesting for me because I can't wait for it to be over, because I'm hoping my album is still kind of hot. It's the first CD I've done that's gotten press all over the world, and I can't go to any gigs. So
the irony of it all.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to come back. I think we're going to have more control over what we do, but I'm not sure what's going to happen in terms of clubs and that sort of part of it.
Sure.
I mean, if you're making records or you're touring, you have that life, you probably have a better chance of coming back at that than somebody who might be playing weekends at a club or something. I mean, it's hard to say, man. It's hard to say how people are going to survive.
Sure.
I'm going to play because I just keep playing. Well, I mean, I think John McLaughlin made a comment about being a musician is, I don't want to misquote this man. I'm just going to quote small. To be a musician is one of the greatest privileges. And I truly feel that way. And I think music is a universal language. He also said that. But I also believe when musicians play, you can hear the honesty in it. And as they say, the truth will set you free. So there it is.
So do you think there's any truth to the rumor that Facebook and all the other social media has concocted this virus so that it would get us all addicted to it more?
Man, I think it's pitiful that there are people dying in this country that don't believe they're dying of COVID.
Well, that's
it's a real,
no,
it's a terrible thing. I mean, I understand what you're saying. Facebook, I mean, I think what we're doing is what it's supposed to be for, connecting with people, not, and like I said, music is truth.
Sure.
So I think that's exactly what Facebook should be for.
Okay. John Rankin, what have you been doing? Have you been composing or usually out of the Depression, there were songs, out of the riots in the 60s, there were songs. Are we going to see some music coming out of the COVID?
Well, I think you're going to see music coming. I think all musicians that are at home are writing, the musicians that wrote before. So I think there's a lot of pent up material You know, recording and playing live are two very different things. And for many, many years, recordings are what funded touring. And then the last 20 years, touring has supported recording. And so right now, touring clubs, those things are a question mark. I'm booking some jobs out in June and July and hoping that I'll be able to do them. I don't think, for me, I'm more of a live musician than a studio musician, and getting feedback from people that are playing. When you play with an audience, for an audience, they're part of the music, and I think a musician, you know, you talked about listening to the radio, but I think the highest level of musicianship, which we all want to attain, is to be able to listen to everything that's going on and just respond to it without thinking. Do you know what I mean? It's really more about listening than like, wow, I'll play a D flat Lydian scale and that'll be really impressive. Maybe I'll start on the ninth so everybody knows I'm hip, you know. But if you're listening to everybody and then your brain calms and you just become part of this unit. And to me, that's, I'm a solo player a lot, but I way prefer to play with other people and musicians. And anytime I'm playing with somebody, then even if I'm playing background music and being ignored, then I'm communicating with that person. So I don't know any more than any of us where it's going. Obviously, a lot of restaurants are going to close. A lot of clubs are going to close. A lot of the clubs were paying so little in New Orleans anyway that, you know, it's hard to make a living. Somebody told me a musician is a guy with a $5,000 instrument and a $500 car on his way to a $50 gig. You know, and Emily Rimler said that somebody asked her why great jazz guitarist, why she moved to New Orleans. And she said, it's a great place to learn how to play because there's lots of low paying jobs. You know, low-hanging fruit, and that's the story of New Orleans. You know, and people that really want to do something, and Helen and Don are great examples. Are you know, tour and travel and do because if you're from out of town, people will always pay more. You know, so I think sure some clubs are going to come back, and I think it's going to reform. And I think once that there's a majority of the people with vaccines, then perhaps the city will relax on their, you know, anything but a musician open door policy, you know, that not to really complain about what they're doing, but the musicians are the last ones that are going to be brought back, apparently, at least in New Orleans. So, but I like what Don said. I think that the online community that we have developed is an important part of our future. And no matter what happens, we can't neglect that because, again, those are people that we're relating to and contacting with. And I think it's really important.
Right. Helen, your thoughts on the subject?
Yeah, thank you, Don and John, for such eloquent answers. I echo your sentiments in a lot of ways. I mean, I've been in New Orleans 19 years, and I started out, I'm a cellist, so as you can see. But I started out playing weddings for survival, because financial survival, because I came here and I said, I'm not going to take another gig that's not music. I will survive on music. So that meant, you know, luckily people love cello when they get married, and people love New Orleans. People love to get married in New Orleans. So I had enough work coming in for the first 8 years of my life in New Orleans. Almost half of my income was weddings, and you could squeeze a couple in during a Saturday or Sunday, and then go play a couple gigs on Frenchman Street in the evening. And yeah, I was learning how to improvise. I played a lot of $20 gigs, and that was a good night. That was like with like a a 12-piece jazz ensemble. Luckily, I didn't know how to amplify the cello yet, so you couldn't really hear me. Like I was horrified. But I totally taught myself how to improvise and play. But I was able to really create something here in the city, because I think if you're crazy enough to get up on stage and and passionate and knowledgeable enough because you've spent enough hours with your instrument, you can cut it. You just have to be brave, brave and a little nuts enough to do it. But what's beautiful about the city is the live music and the improvising and feeding off of that energy. And it's been so sad to see that stop. I just want to put that out there. Like, that is a missing component. And anybody in government and anybody in commerce that doesn't acknowledge the importance of the musicians of this town is crazy. Just want to say that out loud, because I find it horrible that the musicians are the last in line. It's like, we're not doing this as a hobby. It is an essential service, not only for the culture and history of this amazing city, but also for just mental health. Everyone's going through a lot of stress right now, and I feel like my fans, the money for live streaming went from woohoo to almost nothing for a while there, and I thought about stopping. But then there was a couple fans every Monday that were like, "You made my day, my week. I need this." And I'm like, okay, I can't stop, Responsibility. It's an honor and a responsibility to take care of people like that.
Yeah.
We are essential. So yeah, we need much more support than we're getting across the whole country, but especially in New Orleans.
Well, I
That's
think
what I'll say.
musicians have they feel that they have an obligation to their fans. It doesn't matter if you're in a big club or a little club, you guys always seem to put out 100%. And it's certainly noticeable in the caliber and the consistency of the work. And so I think everybody's in agreement that you guys are getting the short end of the stick. Don Vappie, give me a couple of quick names of people that have influenced your life musically, whether they're from here or not, it doesn't matter, but just give me a quick name or two.
Placide and Gerald Adams.
Mm-hmm.
Sammy Burfeck. I don't know if anybody remembers these people. Danny Barker.
Yeah.
And others, George French, Bob French, some of my peers, Wendell Brunius, and I played funk way before I played what I'm doing. So, we were back there, and Zigaboo used to come to. We used to rehearse at his cousin's house. Clinton Shallow was the drummer in our little band, and his cousin Zigaboo showed up one day. I was like, Zigaboo, So, we were trying to play the Meters music when I was, 15, trying to figure it out. And yeah, it's mostly New Orleans people,
Right. John, how about you? Who are some of the people that molded and kind of directed you?
Well, when I started, it was Lightning Hopkins and Mississippi John Hurt and John Lee Hooker. And then later it was Wes Montgomery and Miles, and then just so many people. I've got diverse interests. I played a lot of classical guitar, and there's some classical guitarists like the Assad brothers or Manuel Barreco, David Russell. So, when somebody asks me my favorite musician, that's like a joke, and the longer you play, the more you're influenced and love these people. But I guess from New Orleans, Danny Barker and influenced me early on. John Vidakovich inspired me greatly from the first time I saw him in 1976. And Snooks Eaglin is one of my heroes in terms of not just great guitar playing, but just a great entertainer who really always made his audience, every time I was in Snook's audience or the few times I got to play with him, everybody in that room felt it. And it was that epiphany, those great moments. Also Henry Butler, I can't say that I play guitar like Henry Butler or any of these people, but they're the people that inspire me. And Henry obviously has a tremendous amount of energy, and John Boutte just was so creative and listening and reactive to the situation, and so melodic and musical. So it's a long list.
Yeah.
From New Orleans, I would say Snoozer Quinn is a great fairly unknown guitarist. They've actually just re-released his LP, and he's a one-of-a-kind solo guitar player. It's pretty phenomenal.
Right. Hellen, how about you? Whoops. We lost Hellen.
She's there.
Can she hear me though?
Oh, here she comes.
Yeah. Are you there, Helen? Helen?
You muted. You're muted, Helen.
Still can't hear you. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show the pictures that I took of all of you for my book, so that we can kind of go down memory lane here. Now, let's see, I can put this. How do I share this? There. Can you see that? No. Let me see how I got to do this. Share the screen. All right. Let's see, share. Okay, this isn't working. I've got some technical.
Uh-oh, he just cut himself off.
Uh-oh.
So Helen, you want to finish his question
Sure,
while we're waiting for it?
Yeah, why don't I go ahead and answer the question while David gets those pictures up. It's so interesting to hear both you and Don and John. Sorry, I was plugging in my computer, but I was listening, which is the most important part of being a good musician. Agreed. And actually, speaking of which, one of my early mentors is Michael Ray from the Cosmic Crew and Sun Ra Orchestra, the trumpet player. I had every Tuesday night I had a jam session at Flora's coffee shop, and I was learning how to improvise, and we'd play from 10 p.m. till 2 or 3 in the morning. And Michael Ray came and sat in, and I didn't know who anybody was. I was young. I didn't know it. I was just in it. I was in the experiences, and I was meeting who I could meet. And he said I had big ears, and I thought, okay, I can do this, And but it was some of the early mentors for me in New Orleans were James Singleton. I played in a lot of his groups. He was looking for a cello player in his jazz quartet, and I learned how to play a funky line on the cello because I was playing it super classical, and he really taught me to think about the big beats. And then I got to play with Johnny Vodakovich. I've learned so much from him, Reggie Scanlon, and I've gotten to play with some really wonderful, incredible teachers here. I'm a huge Prince fan. I won't lie. I came up on Prince. I first heard him when I was 11, and I bought every single one of his albums. My room was plastered with posters, and I got to see him 4 times live. And I cried my eyes out when he died. So Prince, forever inspiration to me. I still go to his music today and find inspiration because I'm doing loops and cello and incorporating jazz, funk, French chansons. It all gets mixed into what I'm doing now with my solo show, but Prince is really at the heart of what I do. Classical music, of course, is my training. So I have that in my ears and my soul. I've got, the endless hours of practice in Rachmaninoff. Played an incredible sonata for cello and piano by Rachmaninoff, Opus 9. It's beautiful, and I learned it by memory, and I feel like it influences my work still to this day. And And yeah, I got to play with the New Orleans musicians have molded me. I feel like I really have come up, playing. There's so many. Smokey Johnson, drummers. All the drummers. Big shout out! Like all of that rhythm. Just, I mean, and everybody play. I end up playing cello like a drum. I don't know if you can see the handprints on my cello in the background. Those are from drumming on the cello. So I've become quite the percussionist. It sort of sounds like a wannabe bongo, but anyway, I'm having fun. Anyway, so yeah, this city's incredible for inspiration, but there's some of my influence. I want to say one more. Abdul Wadud, who is a cello player who played with Julius Hemphill. He was one of the first jazz cellists I heard about that gave me the idea maybe I could do this as well.
All right. Go ahead. Oh, all right. I think we're about to run out of time here. Somebody give me a heads up in the control booth if we are. But it's I know, for example, in my photography, I spend my life looking at painters' works. I listen to music. I try to read as much as I can because I'd like to take a photograph as good as Hemingway writes a sentence, or as good as some of the people that you all mentioned played a lick or created a lyric. And I think it's incumbent in the arts to kind of embrace all of them, because you can draw inspiration from all of them. And when I sit down and listen to all of you play at different venues that I've seen you, it just amazes me how that fixed finite instrument can represent so many different things: moods, textures, speed, and I feel like the lowly person on the ladder, because all I do is walk around and take pictures of you. You guys are actually creating some things, and so the admiration that I've always had for you has been enormous, and it continues to grow, because as I get to meet more musicians, it's like you just keep expanding the circle of inspirations and knowledge and all of those things. So in that regard, I'm very, very grateful for you guys letting me come in time and take.
It's mutual, David. It's mutual, man. We appreciate what you do too. Somebody did text a question in the comments wanting to know, we all chose our places to be photographed, right? So they wanted to know, who chose where we were going to be photographed? Who chose the place where we were photographed?
Well, you all did. I mean,
yes. So why?
Well,
each person, why?
Well, I mean, each person has a different reason. I mean, you actually picked the house that you were born in. You're down there on Valence Street.
That's right.
And right. When you think about it, the Nevilles lived down there, and Teddy Ridgely lived down there. At one point, I was trying to get the city to call that Musician Street, because there seemed to be quite a nucleus of people there. Hellen, why did you want to be photographed in your Katrina home?
Well, I feel like it was a sign that I was, going to stay in New Orleans, and because I'd still only been there 3 years prior to Katrina, and then moved in, and I was committed to being a New Orleans musician and really contributing to this community. And then also my cat, I think, made it in the photograph.
Yes.
And I'm a cat person, and I was showing you that, which I don't. She doesn't come to gigs, so it was a.
Is she still with us?
No, unfortunately, I now have 2 new cats who are fantastic.
What was the cat's name?
Her name is Lily. She was a great cat.
I've been racking my brain trying to remember that. I was looking through my notes to see if I'd written it down, but I didn't.
Lily.
John, why did you pick your house?
I honestly don't remember. I just assume it was comfortable. I have a beautiful house. I love my house. I don't believe we just walked around. I think you picked the kitchen. I don't remember.
Well, I was drawn to the arch in the door.
Right. Well, that's it. That's 100-year-old ceramic arch between the doors, right?
And
That
I
makes
also
sense.
felt that you had kind of a Paul McCartney look about you, and holding the guitar left-handed kind of was a secret thing that I was kind of working on when I did it. But
Hey, you take away an English accent and a few $1 billion. I mean, we're almost
I'm
the
also
same.
left-handed, John.
But they wouldn't let you play
They
left-handed,
won't. You
would
stab each other in orchestra.
they? Right. Well, my first guitar, Bill Russell bought it in the French market, the historian, and converted it. It was a Hawaiian guitar, so he rounded the neck, but the accent was really bad. And I tried playing with it for a week, and I couldn't really do it. So I turned the strings around myself, and it was years before I ever had a guitar lesson. And by then I was basically ruined.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it to anybody. It's really a pain.
Yeah. Elizabeth Cotton, she was the one I knew as a left-handed guitar player.
She played it upside down. Yeah. Hey, there he is.
Am I upside down?
No, you're
No, you're okay. You're okay.
are you in Australia?
Hey, guy. I'm so sorry. I thought it was 6 o'clock. I
Oh.
didn't even do it there.
You're good.
COVID look, man.
I was trying to avoid that. I'm so forgive me. guys.
Well, we relinquish the rest of the time to you and David. Go ahead.
Yes, indeed.
Look, David, I even had my lamp I was going to pull out. And I was going to do it by camera.
Well,
How you
Don,
doing, David?
tell us why you wanted me to come to your house and take your picture in the Treme.
I can't remember why, but I guess I wanted you to see the Treme, man, because that was the when I was living on St. Claude Street, right?
Yeah.
But I think I just wanted you to see the net. Was the house still up at that time?
Yeah.
It was. Well, that was before the 205.
No. This is after that. This is well, no, wait. Yeah, you were on the side. You were on the side balcony on the front porch there. That wasn't St. Claude.
Gosh, where was that? I have no idea, man. What year was that?
He's
Somebody
played
else-
that
I'm
song already.
terrible with years. Well, I'll tell you why you told me.
Well, that might jog my memory.
Okay, you had said that growing up, living in the Treme, because there was no air conditioning and all of that, and the houses, the proximity was so close that you could, smell people's cooking.
That's right.
You could hear them singing, playing the piano, and so the culture just permeated through the screened windows.
That's exactly right. And if they weren't playing, if they weren't like practicing on their porch like Wendell Brutus's father used to do on Annette Street, across the street from my aunt, right? You could hear them walking down the streets playing for funerals or, second lines or whatever, There was always music, man, always music. And you could always smell people cooking, They were, and when my grand aunt would walk me to school, I'm telling you, for 9 blocks, this is true, Don. I knew everybody who lived in every house that I passed.
Yeah.
I could smell what they were cooking for breakfast. I could smell what they were cooking for dinner on the way home, dude. And they were usually out and saying hello. It was a real community. Now
Right.
I don't know anybody, man. It's like, it's like we've lost a lot of that.
Sure. Well, the anecdote that you told me, you said there was only one drawback to having these houses so close in proximity, and he says every once in a while you could hear him flush the toilet.
And more.
And so that was my takeaway from our time together.
That must have been on Durban. That must have been on Germany.
That's it.
Yeah, I was living in my one of my grand aunt's homes that was next to my mother's home where I
Yeah.
grew up.
That's exactly where it was. That's
Yeah.
exactly where it was. John Rankin, you raised your hand. Did you have a comment or something there?
Don't think so.
No? Okay. he was yawning. I'm
Well,
sorry.
hey man,
No, I didn't know.
I hope
I'll wave it again.
the flush of the toilet was all you could hear.
No, we could hear extra, man. You know,
Well,
I'm gonna take you on a walking tour, man. So since you're with me here,
maybe on
see y'all
Tuesday,
back.
because Mondays was Red Bean Day, right? So Tuesday is
Yeah,
probably a lot of music.
Mondays was always Red Bean days where people would wash their clothes and soak their beans on Sunday nights and cook them on Mondays.
That's right.
We had all those different. Wow, somebody's passing. See, when I live in the country, man, I'm excited when I see people.
Right.
But I like it out here, man. You know, things have changed. It's especially with this crazy virus, man, and people not want to take it serious and do the right thing. You know. So I actually posted today that I wish they would mask up, just wear your mask properly, man. Don't leave your nose out.
No, man. What is that? What is this? What is this? I mean, that's
It's ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
I just want to slap them sometimes. So
Yeah.
I say that, but I really do. I used to be a military officer, so I used to inspect my troops. And sometimes it would make me, it wouldn't make me crazy, but I'd make them think it'd make me crazy, right? If they just wouldn't do the simple thing, man, like you don't forget your hat, shiny shoes or whatever, you have to be in uniform. Just put the mask on your face and on your nose and protect not only yourself, but your fellow citizen. It's not politics, man. I heard it's the right. I heard this today, and it's actually true. It's patriotism. You got to
Yes.
be a patriot, man.
Yes.
I don't care if you're Republican, Independent. I don't care if you're, if you're a legal alien. Wear your mask.
Wear your mask.
Wear your mask, man. Because you know what? We're in really deep trouble. And I said today, and I know this to be true. I'm not gonna be able to perform, and this is very selfish of me because people are dying, But my art is my life, as many musicians and and artists, and it's gonna be 2 years, man, before I can get out and sing to the public, if that, safely. And I'm telling you what, to a live audience. I want a live audience. I don't want a dead audience. I want an audience that can survive this, man. We can do this. This is easy. I wish I had a picture of me. There's a picture of me in 1983 in full military uniform with this hot mask, that the gas mask that we used to have to keep on, man, because if somebody would have attacked us with gas or some kind of chemical agent, you had to wear that thing 24/7.
Yeah.
And it trained us to do that, this is, we're all so tough, they all love sports and football and all this big boy kiddie game stuff, right?
John,
But
David
we
asked
need.
us if we were doing anything live. You doing anything live, bro?
I'm not doing anything. Oh, I'm not doing anything live. I did. Wait, I take that back, John. I'm doing something live on Tuesday at the Mint, but I'm gonna be up on a balcony, away from everybody, right? I would be like the chicken. What is it? Don't cry for me, Argentina.
Right.
I'll be looking down on the
Right.
on the peoples down there, right? And say, I should know that song. I wish I could belt that out when I got up there, right? I'm only doing like 15 minutes for the.
Oh man, it'd be great to hear that song.
It's gonna be at the Mint, New Orleans Mint, for the New Orleans Film Festival this Saturday, man. 15 minutes. I think it's John Prime's America Utopia movie. That's the one Spike Lee did the music to.
Right, right.
You
Man,
should have called
David Byrne.
to the music.
bro, the one drag about the pandemic for me is you cut your band back down to 2 musicians and you.
You know, only for economic reasons, man. Look, let me tell you, Don, we went to play DBA the other day.
Uh-huh.
They didn't even have the piano tune, man. There was no
Oh.
piano. Don, Oscar had to come there with like, you know, a half a piano, some, you know, like a Casio, but he still
Right.
made it sound like something. But still, man, we have to still, you know, when we get out, even in the pandemic,
I
you
know,
know,
bro.
I feel like Roger Dangerfield, bro. I can't get any respect. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know,
It's like,
man.
you know, don't
I just
skip
miss
on-
y'all, bro.
All right. Well, listen, we got to wrap it up. We're getting the
All right.
hook. So
I'm sure
I want
God, forgive me.
oh,
Forget-
you're forgiven, not to worry. But John, Helen, and Don, I can't thank you enough making this all possible, and most importantly, making my life a whole lot richer.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
Yep.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, Megan,
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Megan.
See you, Helen. See you, Don. Bye, guys.
Megan, I'm so sorry to cut you off, but we can't hear anything you're saying. And so you're just like, so I thought I'd come on and just let you know that we couldn't hear any of that. You're not muted, so I'm not sure what the mic issue is. But I just wanted to say that everyone donate to the festival, please. I know that Megan was going to say that. That was an amazing panel. You can support Words and Music. There are lots of different ways in the chat. It's all posted there. So support it through PayPal. You can text to support the festival as well. And the other way is to visit the virtual bookstore hosted by Tubby and Coos. Those are the best ways to support the festival. Thank you to all of the panelists for the When Not Performing panel. That was amazing. I love New Orleans musicians. Thanks to Megan. Sorry about that, y'all. And thanks to everyone. And go on to our next panel in just a few minutes. Bye-bye.